Right, Eva Smith, I don't know where we'd start or end with her. There's so much we could possibly say about her. So let's have a look, let's get cracking with her. So just like normal, all my points have been colour coded to show where it hits the different parts of the mark scheme. Now, how does Priestley present Eva Smith as a representation of the working class? She does represent those that are disenfranchised and marginalised in our society. She's young, she's a woman, she's lower class, so she's got a lot of things working against her in a 1912 society. Now, Priestley demonstrates the struggle of these people. He also shows how these people are being judged and therefore limited just from people's judgment of them. But he also shows that they have the power. They have the power to sustain people's happiness and sustain people's place in society, but also their power to cripple them, their power to challenge the traditional status quos, the class systems and capitalism, and therefore shows their importance in making a better world for everyone. Now, I couldn't narrow it down to 4 points, so I've gone for 5 today, okay? And pick your favourite 4, because 4 will be plenty for your exam, but I'm going to talk you through 5 key points. So first of all, nice and simple, she's not considered as a human. Mr. Berlin says it's my duty to keep labour costs down, so he doesn't consider her as a young lady, he sees her as a cost. Now, her morality is judged because of her class by Mrs. Berlin. She dismisses them as girls of that class, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. Now, we also have this symbol of a drink. They're all sitting around drinking port and champagne, whereas she's drinking disinfectant to burn her insides out. Those are 2 different quotes, but I would talk about them at the same time. Now, this shows the gulf between the classes. Now, Eva Smith is then used and slaughtered just like an animal is, but she also has the potential to hurt them. So I would definitely use this one, an animal, a thing, not a person. And there's some really rich language we can get in there and get into nice layers of language analysis. Finally, we've got this quote here, millions and millions of Eva Smiths, which really captures the whole point of her, but I think is quite hard to talk about in terms of language. So we're going to put it in there, but it's probably not one we're going to layer up and layer up. It's more going to serve as a conclusion, that one. So first of all, let's get to Mr. Berlin. He says it's my duty to keep labour costs down. So he doesn't consider her as a person to protect, but he sees her as a cost to be managed. Now, he uses this word duty, so that shows a lot about Mr. Berlin's point of view on his social position. He feels because of his place in society, it's his duty to uphold these capitalist values. He almost shows that he doesn't really have a choice in the matter. So he feels there's no way of changing, this cycle of pain for people like Eva is going to continue and go on and on and on because there isn't a desire to change. Now, this is reflective of the capitalist middle class attitude in 1912, and this is quite sad because Mr. Berlin, he's a self-made man. He was from the lower classes, but therefore his success has blinded him to his responsibilities to humanity. He's forgotten what it is to struggle because he's managed to be successful. Now, all the way through, she's never ever on stage. We never see her. Now, this reflects the Berlin's attitude towards her. They don't consider her a part of their existence. But this is really ironic because she drives the entire plot throughout. She's integral to their survival, yet they don't let her on stage. Then Mrs. Berlin pipes up and she describes girls of that class. So they are judging her morals, they're judging Eva Smith's character based on her class. Because she's lower class, they think she must be a bad person. Now, this is massively ironic because she's the one with the decent morals, she's the one who is refusing stolen money, she's the one that is taking everyone on strike so everyone can improve and have a better living conditions. And it's actually them, it's the upper classes that are the ones that are lacking morals. They're the ones that are cheating on their partners, they're the ones that are stealing money, they're the ones that are callously dismissing people regardless of their plight and their emotional well-being. They're the ones that have got the morality issues. Now, Mrs. Berlin just refers to her as a girl. She's belittling her, she's degrading her, and this is someone who should be the mother of her grandchild. She was carrying her grandchild in her womb when she died, and she's dismissed her as a girl. Now, this shows the subordination of gender. Even Mrs. Berlin, another lady, even she is degrading another female, showing how it's so socially ingrained in the public psyche that girls are weaker and they're subordinate, and they just need to get used to it and accept it. Now, the upper class are using the suffering of people like Eva for their own gain, and this is the great cruelty of Mrs. Berlin. She is in a situation where she should be helping her. She's in a position to apparently help people like Eva who are struggling, but she only does that for her own reputational gain. She has no intention of helping her at all. She just wants to look good being a prominent member of the Bromley Women's Society. So this shows the helplessness for the lower classes, that the people that should be helping them, the people they're meant to be turning to, do not care and don't want to help. And then we've got this one, this symbol, this disinfectant and burning your insides out. So as I was mentioning before, this drink symbolises the massive gulf between the classes. They're sitting around drinking port and champagne, and she's drinking disinfectant. We've also got that second juxtaposition that they're busy celebrating, whereas she's suffering in pain and agony. Now, I think the disinfectant is a deliberate choice. Disinfectant is a cleanser. She wants to be clean of the cruelty and immorality of the Berlins, and such is her desperation to be clean of this. The only way to do it is to die, like a germ. Now, but she burnt her insides out. So she's got this physical agony to match the psychological and emotional agony that she's been put through in her life. It's almost like she's trying to punish herself the same way that society and the Berlins has punished her. Now, it's massive that she burnt her insides out. She's attacking herself from the inside. Now, I believe she's attacking her good heart and her good soul, because it is this selflessness, it's this morality, it's this good kindness that's cost her life. If she'd been a little bit more selfish and maybe not taken everyone on strike, if she had been a little bit more cold and accepting stolen money, if she'd been a little bit more stubborn with Gerald, you'd never know. She might have had more of a chance in life. She might have been able to sustain her life a little bit more. Or is she attacking the Berlin inside her? Is she trying to take out all this frustration, all this anger on the little baby Berlin that's inside her? Now, this quote here, an animal thing, not a person, is so good for your layers and layers of language analysis, because I've got 3 things I would say about this. The inspector says that they treat her like an animal. So, is that animal like livestock, like chickens, where they're using her for their own gain, but when they're satisfied and had enough, they socially slaughter her, they just dismiss her off, and that's what they all do. They all use her until she's no longer useful for them, and then they just get rid of her, just cut her out. Or is she like a wild animal? They're trying to tame her, they're trying to restrict her life and trying to tame her and kind of limit her. However, she can still hurt them. Even in her death, she's destroyed them reputationally. She is attacking them still. Or is she like a pet, that she provides them a short-term comfort and satisfaction, but she's not then given the same privilege and luxuries as the owners of a pet, whereas they see they own her. But then they also describe her as a thing, or the inspector says that they treat her like a thing. So she's just an object for their gratification and life improvement, and they don't see her as a human with human connection or emotion. So if I can get this quote in my essay, there's 4 different layers of language analysis there ready to go. And I would then dovetail that point into this one. Millions and millions of Eva Smith, because there's not a fat lot of language here, but there's lots to say. As we established at the outset in our introduction, Eva Smith is a representation of all the lower classes, and there are millions and millions of them. So she represents all those limited by their social standing, and this then kind of dovetails into the message to the audience that all of our choices and all of our actions impact and shape all of these millions of people around us. Now, it's deliberate. She's got Smith. It's a very common, unexceptional name, showing that her plight, her struggle is nothing out of the ordinary. It's exactly the same thing that's happening across our society. Now, this line from the inspector is reflective of the increasingly socialist thinking in 1946. After World War II, when this play is being launched, is when the new Labour Party is coming into the fore, is coming into the central mainstream politics, and they are rooted in these socialist beliefs of helping everyone, helping other people, especially those that are struggling in lower class employment. So this is not a ridiculous, outrageous statement from Priestley, even though it is a seismic shift away from what Berlin has been saying at the start of the play. Now, the phone is then ringing at the end. So that's a massive symbol that these people are not going away. People like Eva Smith are always going to be there. So our responsibility to help them is always going to be there as well. So I would narrow it down to those 5 points, but as I say, there's so many other things I could have said and so many other quotes that could apply to her. So best of luck, and hopefully Eva comes up, because I think it's going to be so great for you to get a really high mark. There's so much you can say about her. Good luck.